Welcome everybody to day 7 of our 12 days of sacred self, celebrating and honoring these holy nights as they are called in our traditions, but really all they are days and nights of transition from the old into the new. Today is the last day of 2020. And with that, also a day of, I want to say recapitulation, of review, and, recognizing which of these experiences that we've had, that we might have experienced as inconvenient or challenging, actually contributed to something new in us. Today is also a very powerful full moon. And we know as energetically sensitives that these lunar cycles often influence our energy. Most of us can feel that, right? There's more tension around full moon times, and police and social services and, research knows this. There seems to be a bit of a release there, a bit of a clearing in our collectives. But what does this do to us? How are you guys feeling today? How is this sort of ending energy? Full moon is also the end of the month's lunar cycle. How is that? How does that feel inside of you?
Hi, Jona. Good morning.
Hey.
Hi. I woke up just out like going in automatic review, but from a deeper place, and just requesting and asking my true self, my soul self, to show me the larger picture. What am I? Where am I? What am I about? And it's very beautiful. Then I remember, that, it is a 31st. Like, then I remember, it is a 31st. We have the 12 days. Step 7, like everything just kind of started clicking. And I'm just allowing, like, going into that space of facing my own darkness and also letting go at once. That's how I'm seeing it, like, what am I, like, is this working out? Like, my schedule, my investments of time and energy. Or is this not working out? Then it needs to be a change. It needs to be let go. So,
Like a bit of a reality check, maybe?
yes.
Review. I like how you said review. Denisse, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Tucson, Arizona.
I like how you reflected on the effectivity or the effectiveness of your energy management, as you called it, right? Like how you schedule your time, how you schedule your activities, all these sort of daily choices, because that's kind of like what all this is about, right? When we go into this inventory or reality check with ourselves, right? I mean, when we ask these big questions, I mean, we've already identified here together that it's important to look through the eyes of the bigger perspective, so to speak. But if our questions or this checking in with ourselves is too broad, right? Who am I? What is my purpose? Okay, then we can also get lost in this, right? It can overwhelm us because it's too big questions. A big part of energy coaching is actually teaching people to have this bigger perspective, this bigger, allow this higher perception, but at the same time, to be very practical about it, to be very like, okay, so, what am I even choosing here? What am I choosing to eat? What am I choosing, to expose myself to? How much time do I actually give myself to rest, to sleep, to connect within, right? Because ultimately, almost every day, we talked a little bit about these aspects in our lives, right? That where we have to make more conscious choices. So if we go into the too big perspective, we can lose ourselves in that. And if we fixate too much, on calorie counting or, being on time, allowing this schedule pressure or whatever to run us, well, then we lose ourselves in ourselves, right? So we're feeling this tension, this duality in ourselves at all times. And yesterday we talked about the importance of harmonizing all this and balancing all of this. And you said something, Denisse, about, at least that's what I heard between the lines of what you shared, is to just be okay with looking at it and to not judge it and to just see it for what it is, so that you can make more conscious choices, so that you can, let's say, self-correct if needed, or decide to do more of this or more of that, right?
Yes, and also the passivity aspect came forward, right? Like I'm like, oh, am I just gonna wait for the change to happen, or am I just gonna? It's baby steps, and I have gotten a preview for the larger, but right now it's important just to take the smaller steps. Like,
Yes.
what am I doing today? Like what? And it's not even a doingness. It's a choosing and becoming one with it. Like that. This step here right now. Um, but it is sometimes for me, I mean, I guess it's for everyone. I get lost on like the, oh, I gotta be on time, or oh, I gotta work, or I
Yeah.
gotta, and that's when that comes in, that I feel like I lost myself in the 3D doingness. Then I ask, oh, wait a moment, help me remember, my true self, help me remember, what is this about, where am I, and just previewing helps me remember on what step I'm taking right now. Yeah. So thank
Yeah,
you.
you are actually pointing at these two darknesses in us, right? Either getting lost in the functioning of 3D, the mechanics of that, the materialism of that, the time pressure of that, right? And there is a pressure that is coming in from the outside. I mean, take calendar, take the calendar, take time constructs, right? Okay, so, if you really think about it, there's no proof that today is the last day of 2020. Okay, there's no proof that it's 2020. I mean, we're just all agreed to that as a sort of a collective order, okay, as opposed to divine order, right? And we go with it, and we can get lost in that. We can get lost in seeing ourselves as a body, maybe with a little soul thingy there, okay, but like a machine that has to function in this 3D wheel or construct. And the opposite is just as tempting and just as painful, when we get lost in just seeing ourselves as a soul, just seeing ourselves as a spirit being. Yeah, and going into the divine consciousness and the universe and the cosmic stuff, and giving up all that we are, more or less, and getting lost in the bigness of it. These are two major fears and darknesses that we have. And ultimately, remember how we talked about the abyss? That's what makes up the gravity. Both of these empty places, they're both empty, right? What's missing in these places? Can you feel into this? What is it actually that makes us afraid? That makes us get lost?
Will it be just getting lost, disconnected? and like it's sort of like you forget who you are and what is all this about. That's terrifying for me. Like, yeah.
Yeah, it's terrifying for all. This is our soul's terror, really. It's kind of like to lose our soul, right? But let's contemplate. Let's go a little deeper here. We're not doing this to just do some spiritual blah blah every day. We want to feel our sacred self. We want to feel what we're made of. We want to feel the sacredness so that we understand it better, so that we can make more conscious choices. What is it actually that we're afraid of losing?
I think sometimes for me it's the familiar, the what is, the what isness, the proof, even if the proof isn't beautiful.
Did you say proof, Cheryl?
Yes, yes. So, like sometimes I've hung on to things even though they're really difficult and hard and just for sure not good for me, but, they're familiar, And even though I know better, I still sometimes do that. So just hanging on to the old, I guess, not being willing to grow and change every day.
Yes, this is a good point. This is what pulls us into that unconsciousness, really, that asleepness, right? That makes it so hard for us sometimes to see what is truly good for us, or, when it would be better to let go, or something like that. Is that what you're referring to, Cheryl?
Yes, just staying stuck, just, for familiarity's sake, so my ego can be comfortable, so.
Have you ever spent a thought on why it feels comfortable for the ego? I mean, even if, have you guys all been in situations where there was a part of you that clearly knew that wasn't good for you, but somehow, it just like so happened, okay, like this passivity that Denisse was talking about, right? And you let it happen, and you kind of got used to it over time, and you kind of accepted it as your normal. Feel into this. What is that in us that can overwrite this sense of, this is really not good for me?
For me also is making other people happy.
Okay.
Well, but it's good for them.
But what fuels all this? Yeah.
For me, it's the opposite. It's funny. I'm laughing because it's funny. I feel like I'm more terrified of keep my life repeating the same cycles and not living my life in the fullest potential. Not growing, not creating anew, not changing, not transforming. So that's like a terrifying. That's more.
That's your terror.
Yeah, than
it's my terror.
Staying in the same.
Yeah. And sometimes to my fault. Sometimes I can get lost in that. That I always need to have that feeling of progress or growth. Yeah, that'd be the opposite of what Cheryl just shared. We have these two. Can you see this duality in you, right? It's really always pointing at the middle. It's pointing to this sort of us finding the middle ground, finding the center in all of this. And what it actually is that we're afraid of losing. This is really the contemplation of today. And the energy that can help us to rebalance that. Now, yesterday we found out that there is a greater power that is, ruling all of this anyway. Okay, evolution, entropy, syntropy, divine order. Okay, that's going on without us doing anything. All right, so that's kind of good to know. That even if we didn't do anything, okay. I mean, the worst thing that can happen is that we don't grow. But for the most part, since everything else around us grows, nature and so forth, there'll be a forward movement. I mean, our body is the best example, okay? We don't have to decide to grow, you know, our body does that for us. So, you know, with the cycles and the rhythms, we can see that there is a power that does that. But then when it comes to our conscious layer, you know, where we are seeing ourselves in that bigger picture, then we need to make conscious choices as to what we want to grow into, as to what or whom we want to experience this life as. And sometimes people call this karma, because there is this impulse in all of us that is stronger in some people and less strong in other people to seek that. But there's, regardless of the different consciousness levels and different karmas that people come to this world with, there's something that is the same in all of us, guys, that fuels it all. And we're often not aware of what that is. And yet we all seek it. It drives us all, either in the lower expression, like you just described, you know, through these different temptations, getting lost in myself or getting lost in others, through pleasing or externalizing, you know, or through, you know, just getting stuck in myself. What is that? What is that we all seek? I mean, wouldn't life be so much easier if we knew what these powers are that allow us to balance, to heal, to grow, to create abundance in our lives?
I don't want to use a big word, but I will say grace, heart, and the ability to be able to witness and stop and be present. And I'm going deeper. I'm listening.
Those are all good words, because they, you know, they pave the way. It's the road. It's the pathway. A lot of sharing in the chat here. I don't have enough time to read it all. I'll do this after the alignment. Yes, Shiela is right. It's the why. You know, it's the why behind why I'm here. And what it actually is that we bring into expression, and the power in us that helps us to embody that helps us to make things go. You know, yesterday we talked about the importance of moving forward, of staying in movement. Now today, I'm asking you, well, what is the engine for all of that in you?
I was on my commute into town this morning, and we're in the middle of this incredible marathon right now, so kind of feeling myself walking around with one foot in both worlds and paying attention to the drive, because that's important. It just came to me. I watched that movie you suggested the other night, Jona, Soul. I agree with the others have said about the power behind that movie. There's so many what I would call codes in there and downloads, and it's beautifully done. And it's really interesting how, sorry, there's dogs and cats all over the place. Pardon me if they knock the computer over. There's so much power in seeing like an animation that captures this so well. So I'm on my way into town this morning, and of course I've been in this seeking mindset for quite a while about what is the purpose of this or what not. And with the marathon, it was just this big knowingness that every time I show up for one of these, when I gather with this collective, when I bless my food, when I meditate, when I love the animals, I am what it is that I have been seeking. And I'm not sure why that wasn't so obvious before. So all of the intention of coming to these meditations, to this group, to be with the collective, to love the dog, to worship the plants in the garden, all of that is what this is. And I'm not sure why I couldn't see that before, but it's just like, wow. Thank you for these 12 days. Thank you for the gifts that you're giving us that we can see and that we can't see through these transmissions, because this is very powerful. Thank you.
Thank you, Cheryl, for sharing this. People might think, what kind of cult is that? Right? And we don't even know each other. I mean, some of us know each other because we, you work with me, or any other kind of ways that we are collaborating, but it's all remote. We find together by pure resonance. And what you just described, Cheryl, is the power in our sacred heart. This cannot be, well, it can, but it's, like you said, it's very difficult to describe. This movie that you referred to, it's the new Disney movie. It's a kid movie. It's an animation, but it's very well done, and it visualizes some of these things that are so hard to express in words, like karma, like purpose, even critical inner voices. I think it's a very good way of imagining certain things, the deeper things of our soul. So that was just on a side note. It's a movie that Disney just released on their channel. But at the end of the day, these things like movies, songs, even the alignments that I make, they're all just tools to do one thing, guys, to help us remember. To help us remember that which fuels us, that brings us into existence, and that makes us want to, embody it, that makes us want to express it in, these ways that Cheryl just described are all ways of doing what? Of expressing love. Sacredness, love, truth, wisdom. They all are related in that way. And when we understand, this is the power of higher learning and spiritual learning, how this is all composed. It's not all mystical, guys. It appears mysterious to the unsophisticated, just like how the fact that the sun goes up and down, appeared as a chariot, drawn by a god, all right, 3,000 years ago, or any other of these superstitions. When we don't understand what it is that we're experiencing, our mind jumps in, our ego mind, and kind of fills in the gap. And begins to, on one hand, judge it, but on the other hand, also to embellish it. So these are these temptations, because when there's something unknown or something that we don't fully understand, then, we can easily get pulled off the path. And that's then what we describe as mysterious. But in my experience, and this goes in line, Cheryl, with what you just said, it's a conscious choice to show up, to, recognize these things that nurture me, that protect me, that make me feel loved, that fill me up. Because darkness, really, if you think about it, this abyss that we talked about, this fear, this pain, this pride, guilt, all that, what's underneath that? Underneath that is a fear of emptiness, a fear of loneliness, a fear of a void, the void of love. And so without that understanding that, we just allow this need to feel love through anything or anybody, really, regardless of whether it's good for us or not, just so we feel something. And if we become aware of this, we begin to realize that it's actually in the simple things. I sometimes call it baking cookies, or petting the cat or the dog, or looking at flowers, or just embracing, weather, or, the planet, the people, with all its good and bad and ugly, and recognizing that the big mysterium is the fact that it all exists, and I exist as well. That is proof that this creation power, this source of it all, flows through me. And today on this 7th transition, yes, Denisse, love reminds us of that sacredness. So it's in our conscious choice to make things sacred, that we celebrate, that we remember this love. And this includes ourselves, this includes the practicality of what we embody here. This includes our body, especially as the vehicle for this sacred journey, guys. And this is getting a little more complex now that we are sort of investigating the higher realms of spiritual hierarchy. I don't want to bore you with the spiritual science behind it, but what we are encountering now is what this creation power is composed of. And today, on this last day of the year, that is also a very strong full moon energy, and moon, as most of you know, stands for the divine feminine. It stands for wisdom. It stands for the illumination of the unconscious. And we just did this by remembering that it's actually this divine creation love, right, that is brought into existence through this divine feminine energy, not to be mistaken with femininity or being a female. It does represent, obviously, in these feminine ways and approaches. Yes, and it is related to all the women in our female lineage karmically. But I want you to look at the divine feminine as this vehicle, as this space that gives love the space to grow, that brings it, that births it. And making the connection with what we talked about yesterday, growth. You might feel where I'm going with this. Growth, health, abundance, truth. Those are all connected to love, because love is that fuel. It's the currency for all of this. And it comes to us through this divine feminine, divine masculine, and divine child, not the religious personifications, but this triune, unified energy in us, mother, father, child, where the child being the creation itself. We are all children of Gaia. We are all children of the divine. Yes, and that's right, Shiela. As soon as we embrace choose, and this has to do with this inventory and, reviewing and also doing a bit of a reality check. Hey, how am I even embodying this here? Yeah. How am I treating my body? How am I treating my animals? How am I treating my space? How am I organizing, or how am I managing all of this? Energy management, as Denisse mentioned in the beginning. And to become more aware of that, and to make it more sacred, and to recognize that this is a really, really important aspect of my sacred self, of that inner experience of sacredness. So we'll learn more about this as we go. But today I really wanted to invite you to tune into this component of divine love, the soul of the Divine Mother. And I just want to mention this real quick, because this is something that many of us struggle with. If we had difficult relationships with our mothers, or if we are mothers and we have difficult relationships with our children, but even as fathers, or we all are children of Gaia, so we all have this divine feminine energy in us. If we have a difficult relationship with the divine feminine, all we need to remember is that these early representations of these energies, the archetypes of that, our mothers, our aunts, our sisters, and so forth, that these are all, sacred selves on their own journey, okay? They are not the same as divine feminine or divine masculine. They are in our lives due to the karma and some of these dispositions that we bring into this life. And we can talk about this more later. Today, I just want you to, embrace the full moon, look at the moon, see it as the Sophia, the Greek word for wisdom, that shines this light onto us in the middle of the darkest night, okay? And right here on this threshold between 2020 and 21. Maybe if you do fireworks and or look at fireworks, spend a conscious moment with the moon, with looking at the moon and remembering this divine feminine energy in you. So lean back now and enjoy the alignment that I was able to pre-record today. And you can turn off your video if you like. Divine Feminine. I am one with the divine, balanced and whole. I honor my body and Gaia as the vehicles of my sacred journey, serving me with the inner experience of my sacred self. By aligning myself to the wisdom that permeates me, my body, mind, and spirit, and every cell, thought, sentiment, and sensation in me, I honor the divine soul of the mother in me that fills me with the love that she has for all creation. She gives me the guidance and courage to walk over the bridge of the deepest abyss in me, just so that I can feel my sacred heart's love in me again. I understand now that I need to be open, and I need to nurture this divine feminine love in me at all times, as its guidance protects me from the illusions infused through collective pain and suffering.
due to the power of this alignment to my sacred heart, I can expel all foreign implants and false programming recorded in any dimension or time, and thus declare my soul purified and cleared from any entity or energy stating otherwise. Without this love for creation, that is so much bigger than my ego, I feel empty, lonely, and afraid in the dark, and cannot connect with the inner power that heals, nourishes, and absolves me. I herewith claim the right to love myself unconditionally. I don't need proof from the outside that I am lovable. I exist, and that is proof enough. The divine love and the grace of the sacred wisdom flows through me. With every conscious breath, I honor creation and allow its power and wisdom to grow in me and to nurture me and all my relations. Divine Mother, in front of you I bow. I surrender all that I am, that I was, and all that I pretended to be into your hands. I thus confess to the power of the divine permeating through me and dedicate my sacred journey only to expressions of divine love. I love all that I am. Thank you.
But these energy alignments could literally be done without music and without voice, because it's an energetic transfer from me to you. Yes, Nigel, exactly. It's a good test to tune in, to zone in. And it's the energy of it that we want to feel anyway. You get the written alignment and all this with the recording. And maybe you felt this, but this is all about purification. This is all. Can you come back with your videos? Thank you, Enma, for staying there with me. In the recordings, I'm always the only one left, and it seems like everybody's ran out of the room. Nobody's there anymore. It's so good to have you back after the alignment. Yeah, it's all about us recognizing that with all of these things that we talk about, that we remember, that we express, that all that is just there to help us clear, to help us create a clean slate with ourselves, to absolve ourselves, to purify ourselves. And this is a power that we have in us. That is not a power that is being bestowed onto us, or, it's due to the conscious alignment to that which allows me to feel my sacred self. And yes, the darkness has its part to play in that as well, because who would we become without these temptations and without our darkness? Will we have any motivation to go and grow? I don't know about your guys' ego, but my ego, if everything's fine, I have no reason to change anything. So I can be grateful for all the pain and all the fear and all that, because it is also part of what motivates me and what reminds me of that power in me that always shines through, even if I don't believe in it. So use this time now here, these last hours, minutes of the year. I don't know, some of you, I think, are just now entering the new year. Do we have anyone from Australia or New Zealand here? Carmel in New Zealand, Happy New Year! Yeah. So here.
Thank you.
You're standing right on that threshold right now. So I've sent out the instructions for the light fast, to really go a step farther and actually embody this now in the practical. All right. And that's something that is voluntary for you. It was spontaneous, as you know. We're starting the fast tomorrow. So whatever the time is that we usually do these 12 days of Sacred Self, that's our starting time. And we end the 3-day fast on the 4th, after the meeting. So after we, came together and contemplated, you can go and eat as much as you want. This light fast is not there to starve you or to stress you. It's there to just execute your power. Okay? To show yourself, to prove to yourself that you can. Okay? So my tip is, don't deprive yourself. We're keeping it a light fast just in regards to solid foods. So if you have a good blender, you can literally put anything in there. The simple task is to refrain from chewing, because there is a lot of dopamine that gets released when we chew, and that has to do with this, pleasure, seeking pleasure. All right. So in these 3 days, we can maybe find other ways to seek pleasure, other, things that we can do. How Cheryl shared with us that we can, engage with, that can give us the same feeling, just to show us that we are not dependent on this happy-making dopamine. Not that we don't want it or need it, but there's a temptation in that, and that is the seeking pleasure. You guys all know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about addictions. I'm talking about coping. I'm talking about, lying to ourselves with just sort of getting this temporary cool feeling. Thank you, Enma, for sharing your gratitude and what you've learned. This is super, super sacred to me when you share these things. Also, Cheryl, how you shared, how these sacred moments here together, how they help you. If I may, I would love to ask you towards the end if you would like to just write a testimonial for me, something that can encourage others. But when you type it here into the chat, it's also good for others who come to this link and they see that there's stuff going on. So thank you for sharing this. Thank you for participating and contributing in this way. I'm wishing you a wonderful new year. The forecast for 21 and beyond, all the way to 23, is already out. I know it's a bit overwhelming. It's very into detail of some of the things that are coming our way. But with understanding all these things that we contemplate about, you will also feel that you don't need to be afraid of any of this. Thank you. Happy New Year.